Life is good, God is great. N.O.R.E. N.O.R.E. done brought drink champs to the JBP. I'm not gonna hold you. I was very entertained. I honestly believe, well, this is just my personal opinion, of course, but I enjoyed N.O.R.E. on the JBP more than I enjoyed N.O.R.E. on his own show, Drink Champs. Primarily because N.O.R.E., when he get really drunk, it's hard for me to listen to. He get the watery mouth, you know what I'm saying? He get the slurring, he get the interrupting in the interview. He won't let nobody finish their story. Um, and he kind of was doing that on the JBP today as well. Uh, Dory forgot that he was there to be interviewed. I don't even really know what the purpose of this interview was, but I will say I enjoyed it. N.O.R.E. is very entertaining. N.O.R.E. is looking really healthy too. I like the fact that N.O.R.E. seems to be taking his health situation very seriously. It's dope that he's about to participate in a marathon. I think that's dope. So salute to you, N.O.R.E., for all your, you know what I'm saying, endeavors when it comes to being physically fit, taking your health seriously. That's always a good thing. So salute to that. N.O.R.E. had me dying. When N.O.R.E. told this story about going to the Knicks game with Fat Joe, and he talked about how Fat Joe ordered 3 glizzys, and you know Fat Joe was making waves out here for calling himself, what do he call himself, a glizzy monster or some shit like that? Fat Joe, I guess, decided that the first time he was with N.O.R.E., N.O.R.E. like, I didn't want to disrespect you by eating a glizzy in your presence. Second time, he like, you know what, forget this. I'm the glizzy gobbler. I'm the glizzy monster. I'm getting 3 glizzys courtside. Funny ass story. I died. Now, that's the first interesting. Actually, I don't want to say interesting. That's the first part of this episode on Patreon that was funny. The second part that's funny, but it's also got me like kind of second guessing ish. Ish, why are you still holding on to this idea? And why are you trying to make us believe that you can actually do a standing backflip? And the part that's annoying me about this situation, this conversation, is that when people bring it up to you, you got the nerve to look at everybody like they fucking idiots for doubting that you could do a backflip. It's almost like you starting to look like Mel when we looking at her like you are out of touch. Like, why are you not understanding the situation that's going on right now? Like, nobody believes that you can do a backflip. You bet this man $10,000. I do appreciate the fact that Mark is not gonna let him he's not gonna let him skate by on that bet. You shook a man hand. You did it in front of millions of viewers. You bet $10,000. So I respect the fact that they set a time limit on this bet. Like, this bet is either gonna get paid out or you're gonna actually forfeit some bread. Like, you're gonna attempt to do this backflip or you're gonna forfeit some bread. So I think they said 12 months time, it's either you attempt it or you pay half the money. I like that. And they agreed to it. Issue tripping. At least get one person, at least do what Joe does and like call somebody on the phone to validate the fact that you have once in your life done a backflip for somebody to actually see. Nobody believes that you've done it. So if you get somebody to co-sign that you've done this, it would make a lot more sense. Now, the two things that I found interesting in this pod, two things that were interesting. Number one, I found it very interesting when Emmany started talking about the issue that he had with Hitmaker when he was up there. And Hitmaker was doing some real greasy type shit. And they didn't want to elaborate on it because Mel was there. It had something to do with Mel. And it's like that Mel machismo type situation where Hitmaker is kind of corny. And he kind of showed that he's corny by what he was doing when he was up there. Trying to flex on Emmany. The question that he posed to Emmany and said that, if Diddy asked him to run to the store to get some baby oil, he would be the one to do it. When he asked that question, I thought it was out of bounds. I thought it was out of bounds when he asked it, but like Emmany said, it was all jokes. It was all allegedly fun and games, but he didn't want to turn up. He felt the way in that moment, and he decided to keep it professional. But he comes back in this episode and talks about how he really wanted to slide old boy for being disrespectful. And he talked about how he's really, really over this narrative of him being a broke boy, him being a bum, him being always seen as the guy that it's okay to joke about. He expressed that it's really, really starting to get on his nerves, and I understand it. But back to what was interesting. I thought that it was interesting that Joe himself was the one to say that sometimes we don't understand what people is going through in life. Life has been life for Emmany, and sometimes we need to consider that when we do these jokes. I thought that was interesting that Joe was the one to point that out, when Joe was the one who made, in my opinion, one of the most disrespectful jokes I've ever heard somebody say to an alleged friend of theirs, when he made the joke about blowing his mom's ashes. Like, that kind of like threw me for a loop. I really didn't understand that. I wish somebody would have challenged him on that, but it was a serious moment. But I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only one that thought about that. Like, Joe, you made a joke about this man's deceased mother and like disrespecting her remains. And now you're the one to point out that sometimes jokes are made in not the right amount, not the right time, or bad timing, or it was just, I don't know, that kind of threw me off. That's the first interesting thing that I found about this episode. But the second interesting thing came towards the end, where they got back on a discussion about that little clip that they put on Patreon with the Mel and Mark disagreement. And it seemed like everybody wanted to let Mel know how they viewed it and try to get Mel to understand even further that that wasn't really seen by many as like a serious or egregious enough situation where it shouldn't have been aired. And I literally had an argument with my wife not too long ago. We had a disagreement. I called my homie, come to find out, he deals with the same situation with his girl. Talk to my other homie that I do the podcast with. It's a very common situation with him and his wife. So it turns out Mel is just showing the fact that you could disagree with me or tell me what you think in the comments. Women just operate from an emotional place, like naturally. Everything that they do as far as their reactions, their state of mind, it seems like they react with emotion first before they even think about the logic in the situation. Literally, I was talking to my wife about this before we even came over to my homie house. You operate from emotion. You don't really sit down and think about what's being said. You almost in a situation where you're listening to react as opposed to listening to react to what's said. See? Yeah, we over here on the deck. But I don't know. I don't want to elaborate on that too much. I don't want to make nobody mad. I don't want my wife getting in these comments, embarrassing me on my channel. But Mel just pretty much displayed she was super emotional for whatever reason. She didn't understand what was being explained to her in the moment. Parks even had to tell her, like, look, that really wasn't a bad situation. No names was being called. Nobody was yelling. It wasn't really a hostile environment. It was really just a disagreement. And discourse is good content. So maybe next time in the future, we think a little bit more about what we are going to declare as unworthy of the camera. And maybe we start thinking about this privilege that Joe said to edit, and we kind of keep that sacred. You know what I mean? Like, make sure that if you use that editing privilege, that is something that's really worth it. Because again, it takes away from the show, takes away from the flow, and we all want a good product. So overall, it was a good episode. I'm usually not a big fan of the Patreon episodes because of the guests, and sometimes the conversation it could be a little weird if it's not an interview format. But overall, I liked it. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Yeah, man, it's a great night. July 4th is tomorrow, y'all. Make sure y'all stay safe. And I'll check back with y'all another time. Oh, make sure y'all like the video, subscribe to the channel if you ain't done that already. It's a J-Man Show.